How much does it cost to live in a van? How much does it cost to live in an RV? That's a good question. A lot of folks have that question. A lot of you ask me that question. And my answer is basically almost always the same. It's been raining all day and it's beating on my roof. I kind of like it. I like the sound of that. I don't know if it's going to interfere with this a little bit or not, but it is what it is. This is a high production, and regardless of the rain, the high production will have to continue. So this is a bit of a Lidia inspired video, because me and Lidia were just having a conversation before for a little while with going back and forth. She watched some video about somebody giving a breakdown of how much it costs to live in an RV. And the way Lidia was saying it to me, I didn't watch the video, but the way she was saying it to me, you know, they're comparing how much it costs to live in an RV versus how much it costs to live in an apartment. And they were including how much it costs to live in an RV, including food, gas, insurance. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. You can't include that. That's not, you can't include your food, your gas, your insurance, and those things versus how much you pay for an apartment. Okay, because when you lived in an apartment and you paid for your apartment, you still needed to eat, you still needed gas, you still needed insurance for your car, assuming you had a vehicle. So you can't compare those things. It's just not, you're not comparing an apples and apples, you're comparing apples and oranges. Now, if you want to compare the total cost of living in a vehicle versus the total cost of living in an apartment, it could be a house, but let's say an apartment, then it's different, because now you're comparing your total cost of one thing with the total cost of the other, and now you're comparing apples and apples. But when you're saying that, oh, it costs me so much to live on a road because I have to buy so much for food, I have to buy spend so much on gas, I have to spend so much on insurance, versus when I had the apartment, I only paid, I don't know, $1,500. So one is not comparable with the other. You cannot compare one with the other, because when you lived in your apartment, you still needed to eat, you still needed to put gas in your car. So how much does it cost to live in a van? My answer is always, I don't know. Well, I sometimes I give details, but basically, I don't know. How much do you think it costs? The cost of living in a vehicle is different for everyone. My cost is not the same as your cost. So if you are thinking of moving into a van or moving into an RV, assuming that you're living in a house still or an apartment, assuming that you, for some circumstance, for some reason, maybe you just want to, that you are thinking of moving into a van, let's say. Let's stick with the van, because I've never owned an RV. I'm not going to pretend I've owned an RV. I don't really, I can imagine what the costs are, more or less, because I've been around RVs a little bit with Lidia and all that, so I can imagine the cost. But let's stick with the van. So you are thinking of leaving your house or apartment for whatever circumstances, and you want to live in a van, and you want to know what the cost is. What I can tell you is, personally, I don't know what the cost is, because as I was saying, the cost is different for everyone. If you decide to leave your house and buy a van and live in a van, and then all of a sudden you are going out 2 or 3 times a day and eat gourmet food, guess what? Your cost is going to be more living in a van than when you lived in a house, assuming that you weren't eating gourmet food 3 times a day. Now, there's one cost difference. If you decide to move in a van and then all you do is drive around all day long, all day long, all month long, then you're going to be spending a lot on gas. So how much does it cost to live in a van? I don't know. Everybody is different. Everybody's needs are different. Assuming that you can get a van, let's not even add the cost of the van. Let's not even add the cost of building a van, like kind of like mine. Let's put that aside. Let's eliminate that cost. Okay, let's forget about that. Let's just go right to the cost of day-to-day living. Your cost of day-to-day living is going to vary. Is going to vary because your needs are not my needs. It may seem repetitive, but you want to know, if you haven't lived in a van, if you are watching this and you haven't lived in a van, you are curious. You want to know, how much does it cost? Well, it could cost very little. It could cost a lot. Like I said, if you go out every day and you eat filet mignon, or you eat burgers this, burgers that, filet mignon this, filet mignon that, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you buy a big bag of organic rice, you buy a big bag of organic beans, and then you buy fruits, organic fruits and vegetables, and you buy other food stuff that you can actually make yourself, cook yourself, you're going to save a lot of money. You're going to need very little money a month for food. So you don't need as much as if you were going out every day to eat. It's very expensive when you do that. Also, the cost of fuel. If you decide that you want to drive around every day, it's going to cost you a lot of money, because fuel isn't cheap, and the more miles you drive, the more fuel you have to pump into your vehicle. If you decide that you're just going to drive, you're going to drive a little bit, you're going to stay somewhere for a few days, a week or 2 weeks, especially if you go out west and you can stay in the same spot for 14 days at a time. So you can stay in the same spot for 14 days and then move a little bit and stay another 14 days. So in a month's time, you could drive very little or a lot. So if you drive a little and if you make your own food, now you're not spending a lot of money. You also are not spending money on campgrounds, because assuming that you are out west on BLM land, you don't need to pay money for campgrounds, because it's free. So you're not spending money on that. So you are spending money on gas, but not a lot, because you're not driving that much. You are spending money on food, but not a lot, because you're making it yourself. You're not going out to eat. And maybe you have a cell phone, maybe you have Netflix or whatever, so you get your own entertainment. You go out for walks instead of paying to go someplace to see something, whatever. You could live very frugal and live on very little, or you may need a lot of money. You may need to always be driving, always spending money on fuel. You may need to eat only the best stuff, only stuff that you get from a restaurant or this or that, and you're going to spend a lot of money. So how much money do you need to live in a van? As much money as you want to spend, or as little as you want to spend. So that's all up to you. So the real answer is, I don't know. I can tell you that I can live very frugally, I can live very cheaply, or sometimes I spend more money. Mainly because where I have to work, it's hot in the summer, and then after a hot day's work, I don't want to come in my van and cook in a hot van, making it even hotter. So a lot of times I eat out. I buy stuff, but I try to eat, well, at least go out once a day, not more than that. And I try to be frugal with what I buy. I try not to buy stuff that's too expensive. But if I didn't have to work, and if I was living out west, I could live with very little. Yeah, I mean, I want to go out once in a while and do this and that, but if I want to save money, especially like some of you, you are on a limited income, so you are already frugal to begin with. And if you move into a van or some kind of RV, you can continue to be frugal, you can continue to save money like that, and now you don't have the burden of paying your monthly rent plus utilities, and that could be a lot of money. And all that extra money are for things that you're going to need. Obviously you already eat when you live in an apartment, so you already have that money aside, but the money that you save from the apartment, from the utilities, that's extra money that you're going to have. That's extra money that you could actually begin to save for other things in the future. You can begin to put some aside for vehicle repairs, because they're going to happen. Eventually, they're going to happen. So you can save that money for repairs and just save it for the future. Just because you have it doesn't mean that you have to use all of it, and doesn't mean that you have to spend all of it every month just because it's there. Just save it. You never know. Hey, it's a rainy day like today. You never know when you're going to have a rainy day and you need as much money as you possibly can have. So that's my take on this. You cannot compare apples and oranges. You have to compare apples and apples. And with all those apples, now I'm hungry. I'm going to eat something, folks. I'm going to listen to this rain. I'm going to watch a video. And I'm going to be frugal. I'm going to eat right here in my home on wheels. See you next time. And many peoples will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us concerning his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For the law will come forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem." Isaiah 2:3.